Welcome everyone to our very first Accounting Alchemy Network Social Forum Lyceum. So a quick discussion about what to anticipate today. This is a all hands on deck. Everyone gets to join the discussion. This is not a webinar. This is a meeting where we get to all participate in the conversation, not just chat with whoever the special guest is for the day. And see where that conversation takes us and work to build kind of a synergy environment where we are celebrating the differences between each of our perspectives, really leaning on our framework, our communications framework that we've developed for the Accounting Alchemy Network. And we are recording this call as this is an educational discussion. So the intention here is to discuss and debate ideas and come up with new solutions and things like that, which is different from in the future when we may have a support forum. Those are going to be opportunities for people to get really vulnerable and share things that maybe we wouldn't be sharing in a social social forum or discussion education-based call. And so those calls in the future will not be recorded. Of course, if you want to be vulnerable today and dive into some of those things, especially with some of the recent events that have been happening recently, being able to check in about how some of those things impact each of us emotionally is important. And so we want to offer space for that. Just be aware that this call is being recorded and is going to be available to our members and the public on YouTube. So, ta-da! With that, oh yay, Mariette has joined us. So there are currently 6 of us on this call. Let's take a moment to just arrive so that we're not multitasking. It'd be great if we can be present with each other and really engaging in this conversation. So if everyone can take a moment to just close your eyes, and we're just going to take a few breaths together and ground into this space. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to join us because it's a really good habit to be in, to just be in the present moment, not thinking about what happened earlier today or what's happening later, just being present as we breathe in through our noses and then a nice sigh out through the mouth. One more time, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Feeling your feet on the floor and the seat underneath you. And just acknowledging that in this present moment, together here on this call, we are all in safe spaces and we can choose to get grounded and present whenever we need to. And now opening our eyes, just noticing the other people on the call here today and taking a moment to appreciate each other. Thanks each of you so much for being here today and joining in this conversation as we work to help accounting professionals be a positive force in transforming our world. This is good stuff that we're doing. So with that, Matthew, do you want to kick us off on our topic?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I did post in the chat the Accounting Alchemy Network's communication framework. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, please take a quick scan. It's a document that Ingrid and I prepared at the onset of building this community, really to make sure that the conversations that we are having are supportive of each other and of the efforts that we're aiming towards as a community. I won't, go over that with you. Just take a moment to take a look at it. And it's always there. And I see people popping into the Google Doc. I love that. Thank you. I love the little icons that we get to. So yeah, that being said, I think this is our first community gathering or social forum. And so we felt like maybe a really great way to get started would be to just start off with a check-in. I know, Bill, this is the first time I'm meeting you. So I don't really know who you are and what you're up to in the world per se, other than the great things that Ingrid has shared with me. And Mariette, it's nice to see you over there. Mariette has been blowing up LinkedIn today with all the love, which we appreciate. So it'd be good to maybe if we do a round of introductions, maybe share a little bit about what you're up to right now, maybe something you're working on, and then ultimately why you chose to show up today. What compelled you to say, hey, I've got an hour and I want to spend it with these people. talking about whatever this thing is. That's the curiosity that I have. So who would like to kick us off with a check-in?
I should go first because it's quiet.
Perfect.
Mariette, there's renovation happening in my house. William, I don't know if you heard about that either. So if there's really bad noise, I'm going to stop talking spontaneously. I don't remember all your questions, Matthew, but I will say one of the reasons I wanted to come today is I really wanted to reconnect with my network. I think I've lost touch with so many people that I've known over the years. I'm not that good at reaching out, and so I want to be better. I was really encouraged by what the network is working on. It means so much to me, and I just want to be able to hear more from everyone else and really just hear. I mean, everybody has such wonderful thoughts and perspectives, and I live in my bubble, and I want to make sure I'm getting out of that bubble. As far as what I'm working on, I have a couple of new sessions coming up with clients. I've put together something specifically for leadership, and I'm excited because I'm going to have a couple of times to go through it with some clients. And then my husband quit his job and is now working with me, although I feel like it's more for me than with me. But together we're building out an entirely new curriculum. This is something that's been on my dream list now for 2 years. So excited to get that off the ground. And we're renovating our first floor. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have a new kitchen, same old crusty furniture and artwork, but that's okay. It's going to be in a more beautiful space. So I'm excited about that.
Thank you. That was perfect.
Oh, wait, was I supposed to introduce myself or no? Like who am I?
Well, yeah, you might want to say just a few words.
Hi, I'm Jana. It looks like Gina, but it's pronounced Jana. Last name is ATN. I'm a CPA. I'm based in Maryland. I grew up in public accounting, I had a practice, sold it, worked in a couple of nonprofits, left there. I had a job at Grant Thornton. Now I'm doing I have a consulting practice with diversity and inclusion, training, speaking, and helping firms figure out their strategy.
Nice.
Perfect. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. So I'm Alina. I've been working with Matthew and Ingrid on putting together this awesome network. I'm actually an ex-accountant, so I no longer say recovering. So now I do business coaching for people who are building personal brands online. And I actually just got certified in hypnosis last year as well. So I'm combining elements of NLP, so neurolinguistic programming, working with the mind, and also just the stuff that I've learned from being an accountant all these years as to like how to actually build the business and manage it. So yeah, and the reason why I'm here is because I really, I'm just so for what the Accounting Alchemy Network is doing. I think that a new paradigm is coming as to how we live life in general, and accountants are at the forefront of the business part of that, like helping business owners. Yeah, so I'm super stoked to be here and excited to meet some new faces. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
I guess I'll go next. My name is Bill Hershey. It says William on my thing, but I go by Bill. I got to figure out how to change that in my Zoom settings. So yeah, it's interesting. I actually started as a bookkeeper for a nonprofit. I kind of came into bookkeeping almost accidentally. They just needed a bookkeeper, and I happened to be there, and I was good with numbers, and I ended up being their bookkeeper for more than 15 years. And I'm still their bookkeeper, actually. I left that living situation. It was actually a meditation retreat center. And so I was living there full time. And I started a big business as a bookkeeper to support my holistic health education. And I decidedly chose to serve holistic health people because I identified in that way and wanted to see how their businesses were working, see how to make that work successfully for myself and support like-minded, like-hearted people. But what I noticed was they need a lot more help than bookkeeping. And I also learned something about myself that I never really loved bookkeeping. So similar to Alina, I find myself really more in the coaching space and kind of really in this place where I'm helping healers heal the world through helping support their businesses. And yeah, for right now, it's like that feels very right on. It kind of feels like the call of the hour for me. I'm not a conventional person. I could never really see myself going corporate or even taking business classes in school. But now I'm seeing the merits of it, and that, knowing numbers, being fluent with financials, being fluent with business is deeply connected with our life's work, our purpose, our passion, all these things. And so I think that's a really important mindset shift that I had to navigate on my own, being kind of a renunciate for many, many years. And I see that's a big problem that I think could use some solving or some massaging in the holistic health world. So my purpose here is just to kind of observe and learn. And you are all, I think, more seasoned accountants than myself. It's interesting, I'm getting deeper into the accounting world now. I'm kind of going in the opposite direction in some ways as like learning how to do cost accounting for these folks and forecasting and stuff. So yeah, I'm here to learn.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Henrietta, would you like to come on and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, well, first of all, I giggled when you said, why did you choose to be here for an hour? So a lot of times I don't really even choose. I feel like it just magically happens. So I didn't really have this hour actually. Between my kids and my daughter letting me know that, her summer school started like 5 days after she just ended school, but I made it happen. And so I actually think that that's how life really works, is when things are meant to happen, we just show up whichever way we do. So as you can tell, I'm kind of casual. I'm waiting outside of my backyard until I have to go start my mommy duties again. So that's real life there. So that's how I showed up, I guess, logistically. Why I showed up, it's really simple. I know Matthew and Ingrid very closely as humans, and of course as professionals as well. And so I was just really excited to hear that they were doing something. And over the last few weeks, I've been investigating their something, and it's incredible. The guests, so Jana, I watched you, I believe, a few weeks ago, and the way you explained a topic that is very difficult for a lot of us to understand was just magnificent. And one of my superpowers is to not hold on to that, but to reshare it really fast, because I believe that creating awareness in the state of when you're ignited is the best time to do it. And it happened again today. I think that's what Matthew was referring to, is that I was watching their session with Steve Pipe, and I actually already knew him from an industry expert, but I had never seen his passion around what you covered in regard to climate action. And within 20 minutes of your interview, I literally had to stop watching, and I had to just start resharing all over LinkedIn, all over Facebook, all over everywhere, because I was just called to action. And that's just what I do. So what I do as a human, what I do in regards to what I believe I can make an impact in is that, of course, professionally, I've been in the accounting industry for over 20 plus years, public accounting, private accounting, and over 2 years ago now, I actually founded a learning center to help our accounting and bookkeeping professionals build their bookkeeping practices, or intentional bookkeeping practices. So that's kind of how I showed up and why I'm here and what I'm excited about.
Thank you. And Ingrid, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself too, since like outside of the context of AAN, what are you up to? And
oh God, too much is what I'm up to. Hi everybody, I'm Ingrid Edstrom, and Matthew and I founded the Accounting Alchemy Network and then roped Alina into doing a whole lot of this stuff with us. So Alina has actually been super, super helpful with everything kind of on the back end of things. And we have just can't even express the amount of appreciation that we have for you, Alina. And yeah, outside of Accounting Alchemy, I do coaching with accounting professionals. That's really kind of my main focus. I lead 2 mastermind groups within the Roundtable Labs community, one called Empower Your Passion, where we get to deal with the deeper, more human issues in our businesses, because our business problems are our personal problems in disguise. And it's time for us to rehumanize a lot of what we're doing. And then the other one we just actually started last month is called Journey Beyond Accounting. And it is a group specifically for those of us who have left the accounting side of accounting behind and are now doing more teaching, speaking, writing, coaching, consulting than we are doing accounting. I realized that we still go to accounting conferences and network with accountants, and all of those conversations invariably turn to accounting things that no longer apply to our business models. So we needed a place where we could gather our peers and talk about the things that apply to us in our business models. So those are my 2 mastermind groups. And then I do private coaching with accounting professionals. I am a mental fitness coach trained in the Positive Intelligence program. So if any of you have read Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Shamin, really getting out of our own way and new strategies for employing some of those ideas. I talk a lot about creating a trauma-informed practice and safer spaces in which to work, where we can be human in our relationships with our clients and our teams. And that ropes right into a lot of the stuff we were talking about with Jana and the diversity, equity, inclusion discussions. Making sure that people feel belonging in their workplaces is very, very important. And yeah, I am treasurer of the board of the Post Growth Institute. I volunteer as a CASA, court appointed special advocate, and also with the Pachamama Alliance, and way too many things. I have a 2-acre farm in Southern Oregon. I was milking goats this morning.
What did you say? Something Mama Network?
The Pachamama Alliance.
What is that?
It's fantastic. So we talked a bunch about this actually in the last Lyceum with Steve Pipe. It started as kind of a climate action network, and it's really getting into how climate action is inextricably intertwined with social action, particularly equity, and bringing a lot of those ideas in. And then where we get into it here in Accounting Alchemy is how the climate action and social action is inextricably intertwined with our money story and the choices that we make that are perpetuating our economy, our politics, all of it. It's like, it's this big, you pull on one string, the entire thing's going to go shaking.
Yeah,
So that's what we're doing here right now.
Thank you. I heard something completely different when you said that. That's why I had to ask.
Thank you for checking.
Yeah, it sounded like you said punch your mama. And I'm sorry. I'm like, that doesn't sound like a place I want to be. So I thought I'd ask.
Oh yeah. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Pachamama Alliance. And you can find Pachamama Alliance at pachamama.org, and they have fantastic educational free courses and things on how we can become better activists, movement makers, or actionists, as Mariette was saying on LinkedIn earlier today. Not just activists, but actionists, taking action today, not waiting till tomorrow.
Cool. Thank you, Ingrid. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself out of the context of AAN, and then Ingrid, maybe we can use that to transition a little bit into the UN Global Goals, which is something that we wanted to sort of use to center our conversation today. So when I'm not working ferociously behind the scenes at AAN with Ingrid, I am helping creatives to find their way through money conversations. I started a business that I would consider accounting adjacent at this point, in the sense that basically what I do is I work with professional working artists, helping them to improve how they make and manage their money. It comes from a very personal connection. As a professional artist, I've been a choreographer and a dancer since I was a kid, but obviously professionally in New York and in DC predominantly. And yet in spite of, winning national awards and, getting paid to rehearse and do all that stuff, it still was not enough money to actually survive. To the extent that it put me in some really unfortunate personal circumstances on my journey. And so after I ended my last contract back in December and started the new year with a fresh, clean slate, I was like, you know what, let me finally be my own boss, because I've never not been my own founder and boss. And so that was kind of a fun, oh my gosh, this is a real thing now. What am I going to do with my life moment? And then started 10kcreators.com with the mission to help 10,000 creatives find their path towards financial freedom. So it's a very holistic approach. I do work with accountants, bookkeepers. I also work with financial advisors. I work with business consultants, helping my clients to put in revenue models or install revenue models that will help them to generate the cash so they need to achieve some of their short and long-term financial goals. And it stems back to my passion to make sure that people like me don't make the mistakes I made along the path in my career as a professional artist. And so that's what I'm up to in the world now. And I think it's a perfect sort of segue, if you will, to the UN Global Goals. And maybe Ingrid, if you wouldn't mind opening that up and sharing your screen, in part because when I look at the sort of framework for these different goals that this sort of collective community of leaders has put together, I realize that everybody has the thing that they're the most passionate about, right? That, some people are really passionate about changing the environment and protecting the earth. Some people are super passionate about financial inequality and addressing those issues. There's just a lot that we can focus on as a community. And so I think that the global goals gives us a really interesting framework to understand where we are actually placing our attention as a community, and then subsequently how we can start to synergize our efforts so that for those of us who are concerned with a particular area, that you can start to find the people who you can collaborate with and work with and synchronize with to make a difference. And so Ingrid, maybe if you can just scroll down so people can take a look at these, and you'll see on your screen there: zero hunger, no poverty, affordable and clean energy, sustainable cities and communities, life below the water, etc. So I think one of the questions that Ingrid and I had as we sort of reflect on these global goals and really start to think about how the Accounting Alchemy Network can be a vehicle for you to achieve the kind of social change that you're looking to enact in the world. Which of these goals is resonating with you right now? Which one stands out to you as, hey, maybe we should put some time, energy, effort, and attention onto this area or this area? It's a curiosity that I have about the community that's gathering around this work, and I'd love to know what you're drawn to. Ingrid, do you want to provide any more context to that?
Sure. I had trouble finding the link. I was like, oh gosh, it won't let me minimize Zoom while I'm recording. Yeah, I guess so one of the things that I noticed when I first looked at this global goals is that some of these, like, I almost want to take them and like make a Venn diagram of like, what's an environmental issue, what's a social issue, what's a governance issue, and how do some of them overlap and go into, other spaces. And, because it seems like some of them are related, very, very much so, more than others. And I guess we just really wanted to delve into what's popping to the top of issues that each of our members is feeling most passionate about, and also taking a moment to recognize the things that we are already doing. So things that maybe you're, Jeanna's an educator on diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's huge, huge efforts towards some of these global goals. So celebrating the wins of what are we already doing within our community. Does anyone want to share first?
Well, I'll just share that it was funny. I wanted to do the exact same thing. Like my brain wanted to put this in order. And I'm actually trying to see your faces, but I guess when we're sharing screens, I can't see all your faces. But anyway, and I'm on my phone. That could be the problem. But yeah, so I'm looking at it. I'm able to zoom in through my phone, which is good. And thank you for bringing this up, by the way, because I believe you posted this in your Facebook group or one of your groups. But to be perfectly honest, I did not open the link. So thank you for sharing it again, Matthew, and asking Indra to share it. Honestly, what pulls to me right away, there's a lot of things that pull to me, but what I got fascinated with just by opening this up, the first few seconds are, why are 9 and 16 like pulling to us in that profound color, and they're bigger than everything else? So is it calling to us to believe that those are the most important, or is there some statistics around why they made those bigger than all the other ones? Like, that's the first thing that if I saw this, I would feel like there's an intention around even the formatting of this picture, which kind of fascinated me, to be honest. Again, I can't even make an assumption other than going deeper into it, but I just wondered why was that, and what is under that social issue? Like, again, like the way you're doing it right now, maybe it pulls to me more once I open it and see what they consider number 9 was. But that was just interesting right away when I saw that was like, my brain wanted to open that first because obviously it was in the middle, it was orange, it was huge. So why is that most important to whoever designed this kind of framework or this image? Of course, my heart went straight to education, which I believe was number 4. And that what also called to me, like, what do the numbers matter? Was there some statistics around the numbers, like the numbering of these 17? That also kind of called to me right now when you pulled it up. So those are kind of like my first thoughts when I saw this.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mariette. Well, and I clicked into number 4. So the one that pulls to you is education. So within each goal, there are targets. And the targets under education are free primary and secondary education, equal access to quality pre-primary education, equal access to affordable technical, vocational, and higher education, increase the number of people with relevant skills for financial success, eliminate all discrimination in education, universal literacy and numeracy, education for sustainable development and global citizenship, build and upgrade inclusive and safe schools, expand higher education scholarships for developing countries, and increase the supply of qualified teachers in developing countries. So those are the targets. It's interesting that it goes, 4.1 through 9, and then it goes to 4A.
And what's interesting is I just put in the chat, and then Alina did as well. When we opened it, we had different numbers. Ours were different sizes, so it seems random, which is unfortunate because it would be. My challenge is when I see all of these, I get, my brain starts to connect all of them. And it's difficult to pull out or focus on any one of them, because I feel like if I focus on, I'm just looking at it right now. So if I focus on decent work and economic growth, which I keep going back to over and over again, I think, well, but that's dependent on eliminating hunger and reducing inequalities. And so how on earth can you pick one over the other? Because can't they just all be simultaneous? I know the answer is no. But that's where I get stuck. I get stuck when I see stuff like this. And then just in terms of the prioritization, it's very much influencing what I might consider to be more of a priority than others, and yet it's random. What comes up on our screens is larger. So
yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, it looks like it's definitely changing, because now it's changed even on my screen. So it's just random, which goals they're highlighting from moment to moment. And I love how you pointed out how inextricably intertwined so many of these are, and that we can get stuck in, which one's the chicken, which one's the egg, which one's the cart, which one's the horse. what has to come first versus second. And I think that that's why there's targets within each goal, and where we recognize that, yeah, solving all of this is not for any individual one of us to do. We need to each do what we can do in our lives to exercise some awareness and positive action. So life below water, simple things like wearing non-toxic sunscreen when you go in the water is something that pretty much all of us can do. And also educating ourselves about the needs of our world's aquatic life, and making sure that the choices that we make on a daily basis, particularly with what we throw away. So here we get to responsible consumption and production, and clean water and sanitation, all of those things coming back together, how what we throw away impacts life below water, and that there is no such place as away, that it all has to go somewhere, and that we need to be more aware of where those things are going when we throw them away, and what their life is after our experience with them. Any other particular goals sticking out to anyone as, ooh, I really want to look at that one?
I mean, honestly, I kind of want to go now. I kind of want to dig deep on each one of them, to be frank. Yeah, but I guess one that's really standing out for me right now is responsible consumption and production. Because that would never caught my attention before, but now it's definitely catching my attention. Yeah, and then the other one about decent work.
So really quick, while we're on responsible consumption and production, so the targets within this goal are: implement the 10-year sustainable consumption and production framework, sustainable management and use of natural resources, have global per capita food waste, have as in cut in half, responsible management of chemicals and waste, substantially reduced waste generation, encourage companies to adopt sustainable practices and sustainability reporting, promote sustainable public procurement practices, say that 3 times fast, public procurement practices, promote universal understanding of sustainable lifestyles, support developing countries' scientific and technological capacity for sustainable consumption and production, develop and implement tools to monitor sustainable tourism, and remove market distortions that encourage wasteful consumption. That's cool. Yeah, get rid of greenwashing. I think that would be really, really great. Does everyone, so I just realized that I used a jargon term. Greenwashing is when companies will put environmental ideas in their marketing to make it seem like they're an environmentally friendly company when they're actually not. It's just a marketing ploy. It's called greenwashing.
I need a D&I term for that. I mean,
yeah.
that genuinely. Anyways, I'll stop talking. Well, I don't
You're fine. This. Thank you for speaking up. And then the other one that popped out to me as far as these targets go: encourage companies to adopt sustainable practices and sustainability reporting. One of the things that we talk about here on Accounting Alchemy quite a bit is, how can we account for more than just the financial numbers? How can we start accounting for other metrics within the business that are important? And sustainability reporting is one of those things. And that's one of the areas that we want to begin bringing forth some education around. Jana, go for it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think, is it Mariette or Marietta?
It's Mariette.
Mariette, thank you. One of the things, I don't remember exactly how you said it, I think it was you, but looking at that goal, and I think about what we can be doing as an industry and as a profession, I worry that we are so busy trying to be that CPA or that bookkeeper or that tax person that we are perceived to be, that we don't take what we know to be true. The numbers tell the whole story. Accounting is the skeletal structure of business. Business is the skeletal structure of society. Business propels government, and right now it's in a negative way, just in terms of, in my opinion. and I recognize it's just my opinion. But the whole thing about sustainability reporting, all of the data is there. And I think to some degree, if our industry and if our profession were to be bold enough to try to pull all of these pieces together and bring it to leadership and organizations, people don't do things until they have to do things. And so there's an opportunity for our industry to drive some of this. But accountants are so busy just being numbers driven. Our work can touch every one of these boxes as accountants and bookkeepers. I just don't know how do we get that dialogue started across the industry. I don't know if that made any sense. Did that make
It
sense?
totally makes sense. And I think
Okay.
that we are answering the question right now. This right here is how we get the dialogue started. It has to start somewhere. And it's starting here with the Accounting Alchemy Network. I mean, that's kind of the purpose behind this, is to get the conversation started and have it spread from here.
Mm-hmm.
I often feel like I'm that crazy accountant when I start talking about this stuff. And in all seriousness, when you don't talk, behave, and do things in the way of the group, I always worry about sort of being, oh, that's the crazy one, or she's the other one. And
Yep.
it's too easy to discount what we're saying. And so it makes me wonder, like, how do you message this in a way that it can be heard?
Yeah.
And not, oh, it's just Jana.
I think you
That
hit the
kind of
nail
thing.
on the head, because that's exactly what we're doing here, is that we get to be crazy together, and therefore no one of us is getting singled out anymore. Joe Woodard has a fantastic quote that I absolutely love. He said it at I think my very first Scaling New Heights back in 2015. He said something along the lines of, 1 step ahead, you're a leader. 2 steps ahead, you're a visionary. 3 steps ahead, you're a martyr. And when we think about it in that way of, oh, I really don't want to martyr myself. I feel like the crazy person that everyone's looking at. Now we've got community. Together, we can talk about these ideas and say, it's not just me. These other people are saying these things too. We can band together and bring these ideas forth. And together, we can make a huge positive impact in the world and make these ideas more mainstream. This right here is where it starts. Mariette and Matthew, I think you both have your hands raised.
Yeah, Mary, you want to go first?
Sure. It was just so funny because my dogs, they're so mischievous. I'm outside, so they totally snuck in my house. I was trying to get them out. Sorry about that. So, okay. No, yeah. Well, first of all, Jana, I love what you said. And I think that, because I mean, I don't call myself the crazy person at all, but I think that we have to work through first thinking that it's crazy to speak up on what we believe in and what we truly believe is good for the world and for our community. And taking it out the fact that that's crazy. Actually, I don't think that's crazy. I think that's responsible. And so, like, changing the language in our own mind, changing the narrative that by speaking up is crazy. I think that's where that narrative allows the default of, okay, that's bad. I don't want to be the one standing out there like the crazy person. And I love how Ingrid has that video about the one person that starts the movement, and then you got your followers, and then you got your movement. So I think quickly on, and this was at a really young age, I come from a family of 6. And so someone had to be the one to speak up, and it always kind of was me. And so in my family, I wasn't crazy. I was the outspoken one. She always has to be the boss, but it was things have to get done. And so I don't think, Jana, it's crazy. I think that you're just really passionate and responsible, and you have something to say. And I heard you say it in an interview a few weeks ago, and you say it beautifully. And so now, if I had your gift, I would turn that as, Jana's not the crazy one. Jana is incredibly socially responsible. And I want to be like Jana. I mean, if you would have saw how I shared your stuff, after I was in the bathtub and I got out of the bathtub. Okay, I'm not kidding. I mean, this may be a little TMI, okay? But I was literally in the bathtub. I walked out of the bathtub and I started messaging people and like, you need to hear this, because the way she explained something that we're all so freaking confused about, like listen to how she explains it, because it made so much sense, especially when you gave the race analogy. And so just like when Steve gave the words that said, I'm not an activist, but I'm an actionist, like that literally called to me, like that's who I am. He spoke my language. So, and I didn't think Steve was crazy. I think he was responsible enough to be in an interview with Matthew and Ingrid, and he spoke directly to me, and now I am going to speak to the rest of the world about it. So it's this beautiful ripple effect. But I believe that if there's something in us that's creating some kind of fear or doubt or negative talk that what you're doing is not right, that's what we need to work on, because I believe there's a lot of people that have beautiful messages, but for some reason they think that they don't have the voice or they're not articulate enough to share it. And as long as they work through that, I think we can really create this massive awareness that Ingrid and Matthew are starting here.
Thank you, Mariette. Yeah, that's thank you for that share. I'm so happy you're like inspired and motivated to take action and share that content in that way. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think also too, a part of it, and this is the question that in all of our planning meetings around AAN, when we're brainstorming and thinking through these issues, one of the kind of gut check questions is, okay, but what does this have to do with accounting? Okay, but what does this have to do with accounting? Okay, but what does this really have to do with accounting, right? And so there's this constant like coming back to that question. And I think for those of us who see the bigger picture, and Janelle, I'm the same way. My brain has formed to be able to connect dots really quickly and to see things that are seemingly disconnected and be like, oh, but if you pull these three things together and understand A, B, and C, and D, and then if this, then that, then actually they're just the same thing, just so I totally get where you're coming from. But the thing is that's actually a skill set that some people don't have. And so I think us being vocal about, hey, I see a connection between, hey, I know what the connection is between this thing out here and accounting. Just vocalizing that in and of itself helps people to see something that they would not otherwise see. And then, the other, I think, gut check question I always ask is, okay, so then what? What do we do now? How do we actually take that into action? And I think about all of the presenting I'd ever done at, QuickBooks or Xerocon or Accountex or any of the sort of regional things. It was always like, okay, but here's what you do, right? Here's a roadmap. Here are action items you can take. And so now, so now we're looking at these goals, these global goals. We're seeing the connections and understanding why it's important. And so now it's also, I think, our responsibility to start to help people to be like, hey, here are 3 simple things you can do today in your office, right? And like, to your point, Ingrid, it's like you were going down saying like, oh, and we can do this with accountants and these things with and so I think part of it too is also knowing that our role as those sort of innovators being responsible for this information is to then be the translators and to create the application, or at least ideate on the application. We might not have the best how-to answer, but doesn't matter that it's, quote, the best. It's something, it's a starting point for people who otherwise wouldn't know where to begin. Alina, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just processing what you just shared. Totally agree. And I'm very much an action person. After I haven't watched the Lyceum yet with Steve Pipe, but I watched another presentation that he did, and like unlike you, Mariette, like I got off that presentation and I was like, I gotta do something right away. So, and Jana, what you shared, it brought up something that, like, if you're in a room of people where you're the only person that believes something very strongly that they have zero interest in, yeah, you will be the crazy person and you likely won't be accepted. unless there's like one or two people that are like, oh, what she's talking about is like really interesting. Maybe I'll get curious and check in on that. But that's why we're also building this movement, and we're starting with the people that like are interested in these issues and they want to do something about it. Some people may have a bigger idea on like how to get started than others. Like I'm kind of in that space. Like my awareness has grown tremendously since just forming this network with Ingrid and Matthew. Like this wasn't really anywhere at the top of my awareness level before. It was like, how can I make a major difference globally with my business? And now I would say it's very important. I'm starting to see how the paradigm of people is just changing. The people who are coming up, like the younger people in business. Sorry about my dog. The UPS man is here. Yeah. So the paradigm is changing, and I think people are ready to open their minds and their hearts to something like this. And we just need to find those groups, or we need to form our group and use the words that attracted us, because these are the people we want to attract. It's not, we don't need to convince, because if we need to convince, those people are, well, that's going to be hard. How can we make this easier is my question.
Well, I think that there's a great idea. Oh, somebody keeps calling me and I keep sending to voicemail and they call me back. We're having the discussion, which is recorded, and then there's the discussion behind the discussion, which is happening in the chat for those of us who aren't, in this conversation that's happening live. A great idea that I think it was Mariette put forward was the idea of blogging on each of the different 16 global goals and getting a little deeper into it. And it, sounded like, people really liked that idea. And then I thought, we could blog it, or we could see if one of the mainstream publications for our industry wants to host a column for us and share the responsibility, where each of us can write on the topics that we're most passionate about. And that way it's not falling to one or two people to constantly have to keep up a freaking blog, which is a lot sometimes. And yeah, those are the kinds of things that can get these ideas out there and gives them legitimacy. And I have a hunch, not to call anyone out or anything like that, but considering that Gail Perry was our very first Lyceum guest, it wouldn't hurt to ask CPA Practice Advisor if they want to host us. So,
I just had another idea, Ingram, too.
Yeah.
One of the things that might be fun to do, at least on the Facebook group as a conversation space, is, posting a goal. And so what does this mean to you in the context of our profession and what we can do? I'd be curious, because to your point, Matthew, all of our brains work differently. Mm-hmm. We all see things differently. And I learned so much because when I hear somebody else say something and it's just like, wow, I hadn't thought of it that way. And now I can triangulate that into all of the stuff I already know. And it's a really powerful way, because that's how I learn. That's just the way my brain does it. That'd be interesting to see how other people view this. Does that make sense?
It totally does.
It doesn't even have to be anywhere other than like a Facebook group.
Well, and
because
it's a
Facebook, if I'm sorry to interrupt, Facebook to me, and tell me if I'm missing this here, that's more of the social space versus LinkedIn, which is professional. And it's heads and tails. It's two sides of the same coin, but the filter is different. Does everyone else view it the same?
It varies from person to person. I kind of see them as sort of 6 of one, half dozen the other. My main social space is more Facebook. Matthew's main social space is more LinkedIn. And I try to just cross post just about everything in both groups to make sure that we don't have people missing different things. Yes. And I love your idea of having more discussions there, Janan. That actually is the long-term plan to create those sorts of things. And where we are in the evolution of this really brand new group, like we just launched this thing a couple of months ago, and this is already what it's turning into. Like we've got some cool stuff going on here. we're to the point now where Matthew and I don't need to be starting every conversation. If you feel inspired to ask a question, post about a topic, do it. The same thing. So Mariette brought up the video that we posted with the crazy dancing guy who was a lone nut until somebody got up and danced with him, and the power of the first follower. Only Mariette, you have some fantastic language coming up in your presentation at Scaling New Heights. Can you remind me what the different words you used? They were all F words.
Yes. Yes, they're all F words because I like to shock my audience a little bit. And so Ingrid actually was supporting me on a presentation I'll be doing at Scaling New Heights called Transformative Communities. And so it goes so well with today. Of course, you know, there's always magic in showing up, and there's going to be so much from today's session that I can bring into that conversation. So Ingrid was helping me think through how I wanted to form the question, how do you want to participate in a transformative community? And so, the F word. So I say, okay, let me introduce you to the F roles, and the F roles are founder, our facilitator, friend, and oh my gosh, founder, facilitator, friend, and follower. And now you may think, isn't friend and follower the same? It's actually not. So I explain it inside of the presentation, but the idea just in general is that a friend is someone that would have showed up to this event, would have wanted to participate, would have probably after this session felt connected, and almost would have raised their hand to, you know, be part of this blog series we're talking about. A follower has possibly joined the Accountant Alchemy, but didn't show up here today. They're still figuring out what this means to them. Do they want to continue in this network? But they cared enough to follow the network. So that's where they're at in their transformation journey. Of course, a facilitator would be Alina. She's a perfect, beautiful example of a facilitator. And then we have our co-founders, Ingrid and Matthew. So that's kind of the context around the names.
Thank you, Mariette, for going into that. So yeah, just each of us figuring out where we are on our journey and where we fit right now, and trying to decide, do we want to get deeper into this, or are we comfortable in where we currently are? I see an FFFF t-shirt coming. I was actually participating in a Pachamama Alliance class just a week or so ago, and I thought it was brilliant because it was right after you described this to me, Mariette, and they reframed this. They were calling it the 3 levels of activists, mobilizers, and organizers. So activists being the people who take an action, and that might be volunteering at the food bank or, you know, being in a volunteer role, but you're not one of the people that's, you know, mobilizing people, you know, keeping the movement going, that kind of thing. And then organizers being, you know, kind of more the founders, and figuring out, like, you know, where you fit, because not everyone needs to be in that organizer role. We don't need that many organizers. You end up with a lot of witches in the kitchen that way. But we need a bunch of people taking action, and that action is super important. And it gets really hard when you've got a bunch of actionists thinking, oh, but I'm not an organizer and therefore what I'm doing isn't good enough. What you're doing is super important, and we need you to be doing that. Not everyone can be organizing the next thing, or we won't have anyone showing up to the things we're organizing. So yeah, and I'm just noticing the time. We've got just a couple minutes before the top of the hour, and I want to respect everyone's time. So this is going to be the first of many social forum lyceums that we're having with the Accounting Alchemy Network. We're going to come up with amazing ideas for things that each of us can do. And I would love to hear from each of you before we hop off the call really briefly, because we only have a minute or two. What was either your top highlight or takeaway, something that you learned from our discussion today, or something that you are going to do today, not tomorrow, not someday in the future, today, because we learned from Steve Pipe, to take positive action?
I think I'm going to look at these goals and try to find a way to post a link and a connection to my work to these goals, and just be more intentional. It's going to take me a minute to come up with it, but I want to this really resonates. So thank you for sharing that today. Just like you said, Mariette, everything happens for a reason. And I think this came into my life today for a reason.
As if by magic.
I will just say my action will be to continue in this momentum of today. I actually woke up with a lot of action, just energy, and so I'm going to continue and also probably spend that energy to open up that blog, to open up that link and really identify a few more of those goals.
Beautiful, thank you.
For me, I was just really excited to be a part of this conversation and like be a part of a community of like-minded people. And as I was sharing before, I signed up for the B1G1 thing, and I have this little hypnosis script shop. And every time I sell a script, I give a medical treatment to someone in need. So I need to update my giving. So I'll do that today.
Fantastic. William, any ideas from you?
Hey, yeah, this has been great. I love people, seeing people get mobilized and activated into positive action. I think this is part of a global movement, so it's wonderful to see. As far as, I'm not sure, honestly, if I'm going to do anything differently as a result of this. If anything, it's like, okay, yeah, just keep on keeping on. It's like I have my small ways of contributing, and amidst that, paying the mortgage and staying sustainable and all that. I do want to share one thing, that I think there's something missing in this list of 17 global initiatives, and that these are all solving outer problems, right? And I think we all see this to some extent. But when we're in alignment with the nature, when we're in right relationship with nature and our inner nature, all of these problems disappear. And I think that all these problems are actually symptoms of that disconnect. And so really, maybe that's the parting thought. For me, that's the world that I live in, that working on that core, it's not an easy one to talk about with folks, right? But yeah. So I have a lot that I'd love to share, but I would be the crazy martyr, right? Maybe one day you guys can pull it out of me, but I'm happy to be a resource, and I'm happy to be part of these groups. So happy to see these types of things happening.
Thank you, Bill. And for myself, having talked with you a little bit more deeply, I am looking forward to creating a space where you're going to be open to sharing those things, because I know a lot of the ideas that feel a little crazy resonate very deeply with me. And I know what you were just saying. Mariette was hearting. Alina posted in the chat that very much resonates with her. And I think you hit the nail on the head, that we are creating the world around us with our thoughts, choices, words, and actions. And it's a reflection of our inner game. So how do we help to heal each other? And how do we bring that humanity to the accounting profession? Because it's been missing that. Thank you so much. I know for myself, I really value each of you coming to this very first of our social lyceums. And I hope that we have even more people in the future. And it's so great to see this actually taking off, this idea that Matthew and I had, and just it's coming to fruition. And my action is I'm going to reach out to Gail Perry and see if she might see how this might fit with, rather than having to host a blog, to see if we might have some space in a publication. And that would be really cool. Matthew, you want to close us up?
Yeah, sure. Well, again, thank you, everyone. I think my biggest takeaway is frankly validation, right? It's when you are the crazy one that does the thing and you're like, does anybody like this? We don't know. And then people actually show up. You're like, oh God, thank God. It was something was right. Okay, good. keep going. So I think thank you, first of all, for showing up and being here and being present and continuing to engage. And, I would say, as you continue to do your work out in the world, as you find people who you believe would resonate with this work, please send them to us. Please, know that we are starting to open the network and invite more people. And, we're excited about that. And, so we have some other things coming up. We have a book club that starts next week on Charles Eisenstein's Sacred Economics, which I will be facilitating. I'm super excited about that. I believe there are answers in that book to our questions. And so a lot of them actually, but anyways, so if you're interested in the book club, please register, please let people know. It's come when you can, read what you can, be a part of it as much as you can. You're not expected to, nor getting graded on, how much you read, etc. But otherwise, yeah, just keep, to Ingrid's point, I think we want to create a space where you feel like your thought leadership can be contained in an environment that supports you and your work in the world. So Jana, I know directly your work just from our first our first Lyceum is like, okay, let's like more of that. Whatever else you can contribute that you're already working on, let's bring it into this space. And same thing with all of you. Please lean into this space as a space that can be leveraged to help you grow your thought leadership. That's what we want. So yeah, thank you. I'm complete.
Fantastic. Well, with that, it's 5 after. Thank you so much for sticking around for the end of the call, and we will release you back to the world. Thank you so much. And hopefully see you at book club or the next Lyceum, and definitely post. If you have an idea that you're passionate about, just post it and get the conversation rolling. No need to ask permission from us.
Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in the world.
Yeah,
Bye, y'all.
definitely.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, y'all. Bye.